Hey guys, in this section 11-7 we're looking at the topic is secant lines, and so let's define it. A secant line is a line that hits the circle at 2 points. So if a line comes through and it hits a point and enters inside the circle, then hits another point when it exits the circle, that is a secant line. So remember, last time tangent hits the circle at 1 point, secant line hits the circle at 2 points. Now there's a couple of theorems we're going to look at. Here's the first one. Okay, and it says if two lines intersect inside the circle, right? Okay, then the angle formed is equal to 1/2 of the arc that it's facing, right? Plus the arc that is on its opposite side. So if two lines intersect inside the circle, then the angle, the measure of this angle, is equal to 1/2 of the arc that it's facing, this arc, plus the arc on the other side. Okay? And so, for example, if I have this situation where two lines intersect inside the circle and I'm looking for the value of x, this angle, then this angle is equal to 1/2, according to the theorem, following the theorem, 1/2 of arc 1. Well, what's arc 1? It's the arc that it's facing. What's the arc that it's facing? In this case, it's 86. Okay, so it'll be 1/2 of 86 plus the arc on the opposite side, 34. Alright? So the measure of this angle would be 1/2 of 86 plus 34. We can quickly see what that is. So I can go 0.5 and then 86 plus 34, close it off, and we can see that that is going to be 60. Right? So 1/2 of 86 plus 34 is 60. And 60 is the measure of this angle. Okay? So again, the angle is 1/2 the arc that it's facing plus the one on the opposite side. Now it can't be these two, right? The ones on the outside. It's got to be 1/2 of the one that it's facing. In other words, the one that the angle goes to, and then the one on its opposite side. Those are the two you have to have in order to make this work. Okay? There's a second theorem. And that theorem says that if the lines intersect outside the circle, right? So the first one is intersecting inside the circle. The next one is intersecting outside the circle. So if they intersect outside the circle, then the angle is equal to 1/2 of arc 2, which is the outside arc, minus arc 1, which is the inside arc. Okay, so this angle now, when they intersect outside the circle, it's 1/2 the difference of arc 2, the outside one, minus arc 1, the inside one. Okay, so if I were looking for the x here, it intersects outside the circle, right? So the x is equal to 1/2 of the difference between the outside arc, 88, minus the inside arc, which is 40. Okay, so x is going to be equal to 1/2 of 88 minus 40. Calculator again. Is going to be 0.5 because that's 1/2 times 88 minus 40. Close it off and then we get 24. Okay? So 1/2 of 88 minus 40 is 24. So again, just to recap the two theorems, if it intersects inside the circle, then it's going to be 1/2 the sum of the arcs. If it intersects outside the circle, it's 1/2 the difference. Inside, 1/2 the sum, add. Outside, 1/2 the difference, subtract. Okay, let's try a few more problems, see what we can come up with here. Okay, so we're asked to find the value of x. So if my x is here, okay, first of all, where do they intersect? They intersect inside the circle, right? So if they intersect inside the circle, is it going to be 1/2 the sum or 1/2 the difference? It's going to be 1/2 the sum. Intersect inside the circle is 1/2 the sum. All right, so the x is going to be equal to 1/2 the sum of the one it's facing, 64, plus the one on its opposite side, 28. All right. So again, 1/2 of 64 plus 28, and that would be 46. So 46 is the angle. All right. So here's the next thing that we want to look at. Okay. What if I want this x? Okay. What if I want this x? Here's the deal. Okay. This x would be 1/2 the sum of this arc plus this arc. Well, they don't give me these two arcs. So this is not half the sum of 88 plus 128. That's the wrong answer. Okay? It's going to be half the sum of these two, but these two are not given to me, and I don't really have a way to figure them out at this point. Okay? So you can't just throw numbers in there. You got to make sure it's half of the one that it's facing and the one on the other side. So the question is, how are we going to figure out this angle? Well, here's the deal. I can get this angle because this angle is facing this arc, right? I can get this angle, right? And then once I get this angle, I can subtract it from 180 because these two make a linear pair, and that would give me the x. So that's going to be my task. I'm going to find this angle and then subtract it from 180. Well, what would this angle be? This angle would be 1/2 of 88 plus 128. All right? And that's going to be equal to 108. So that means this angle right here is 108. Well, if this angle right here is 108, how am I going to get this one? I need to do 180 minus 108. They're a linear pair, which means the x that I'm looking for is actually 72. So if this one's 108, this one's 72, and then that's your answer. Okay? So remember, the angle you get is the arc that it's facing in the one on the other side. If I do half the sum of these two, I get this angle, not this angle. But I can get this angle from subtracting it from 180. Okay, so keep that in mind. Make sure you're watching what's being given to you. All right, so here's the next one. So on this one, I have one where this is actually on the circle, right? So if this is on the circle, it doesn't intersect inside or outside. It intersects on the circle. And if it intersects on the circle, this is really just an inscribed angle. All right? So from here to here is 144, but how do I get this other arc? Well, all the way around the circle is 360, right? So 360 minus 144, that would give me 216. So again, this is an inscribed angle, right? And so what's the rule about the inscribed angle? The angle is half the arc. We learned that from the last lesson. Half of 216 is 108. All right, so there you go. Then from there, let's see. We have one where it intersects outside the circle. Remember, outside the circle is half the difference. Half the difference of what? It's half the difference of arc 2, 101, the outside arc, minus the inside arc, 39. Okay? So it's the outside arc minus the inside arc. So what's half of 101 minus 39? That would be 31. And then that's your answer for the angle. Okay, so remember, if it intersects inside, half the sum. Outside, half the difference. If it's on the circle, then it is inscribed, and it's just half of what the arc goes to. All right? Let's see. All right, what about this one, though? So on this one, it intersects outside, so it's going to be half the difference. It's half the difference of this arc minus this arc. They didn't give me this arc. I've got to find it somehow, and I can because all the way around is 360 degrees, right? And so I need to do 360 minus these three, and whatever's left goes here, and then I can solve it. So let's try. Let's go with 360 minus 128 minus 84 minus 118. So that gives me 30, which goes here now. So there's 30 degrees on this arc. So now I have the two arcs that I need, because remember, it's the difference between this arc and this arc, the arcs that are inside of the angle, not the arcs that are outside of the angle, so I couldn't use those. But I can now because I have 30, so it's going to be x equals to 1/2, half the difference of 84 minus 30. Half the difference of 84 minus 30, which is 27. All right, so 27 is the right angle there. All right, so on this last one, the setup is a little bit different because typically the angle is x. But this time the angle is given to you and the x is over here in one of the arcs. We'll still set it up with the same pattern. We'll just have a different equation that we need to solve. All right, and so let's see if we can set it up. So now remember what the equation is. The angle, which is 16, is equal to the 1/2 of the outside arc, 4x, minus the inside arc, 56. So I just have an equation that I need to solve, right? I've got an equation that I need to solve for x. So what can we do? We can do half. So that'll be 16 is equal to half of 4x is 2x. minus, what's half of 56 going to be? That's going to be 28, I believe. 28, right? And then so now I need to bring the 28 over to the other side, so I will get 16 plus 28 equals to 2x. So what's that going to give me? 30, 40 something. That's going to be 44, I believe. That's correct. Yep. 2x equal to 44. Now I'm ready to divide by 2, and then my x is going to be equal to 22. All right, so there you go. So this one just happened to set up with the x in a different spot. You can still set it up and solve it for x. Okay? All right, so there you go.